Over 150 airstrikes have hit Iran, and Iranian forces have fired more than 100 ballistic missiles toward Israel. Despite this chaos, no one is blaming the president for letting both nations spiral into chaos on his watch. Casualties near Tel Aviv are rising as Iranian missiles continue to fly overhead. Amid all this turmoil, what role has the US president been playing behind the scenes? The answer might leave you speechless. Let's take a closer look.
An Israeli drone strike has hit a natural gas refinery in southern Iran, one of the largest gas fields in the world.
It began on the night of June 13, 2025, when the Israeli Defense Forces secretly launched Operation Rising Lion. In a carefully coordinated wave of military action, more than 150 targets all across Iran were struck. These were not minor skirmishes. Israeli jets were actually hitting places like Natanz and Fordo with bunker busters and precision munitions, which were also accompanied by drone sabotage deep inside Iran. Israel's Mossad operatives were said to have activated the covert UAV squads that swiftly sabotaged Iranian air defenses, clearing the path for F-350I jets to sweep in. As sirens blared in Tehran, the world held its breath, and days later, Tehran responded with ballistic missiles and drones launched toward Israeli cities, including Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. But most were intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome and Patriot systems. Still, several missiles penetrated defenses, striking civilian settlement areas. Israeli emergency services reported 16 fatalities and more than 390 wounded, including women and children. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had previously warned that Iran would face the full might of Israel's military, saying, "Path to Tehran is open," and pledging to strike every site of the Ayatollah regime. Leaders from around the world responded, even as the UK moves jets to the region. Germany, France, and countries across the Middle East called for urgent de-escalation. Yet the most eyeball-catching development came from the US President Donald Trump, who took to social media with messages that rattled hearts on both sides. He emphasized that the US had no role in the raid, yet warned Iran that any attack on American interests would be met at levels never seen before. In a statement, he wrote, "There has already been great death and destruction, but there is still time to make this slaughter, with the next already planned attacks being even more brutal, come to an end." He concluded that Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire. In the same breath, he praised the Israeli strikes as excellent and hinted that there was more to come. Does that sound like a classic planned echo, or the strategic guidance of someone deeply connected to Israel's moves? Either way, Prime Minister Keir Starmer in the UK scrambled jets while refusing to promise active combat help, instead urging calm. Meanwhile, Britain's forces are massed in the Gulf and ready for any fallout. The region is closely watching. Iran's Major General Mohammad Pakpour promised harsh retaliation, but experts say Iran's resources are already strained by tough sanctions and weakened alliances. Some expect Iran might dig in with other forms of attack, such as hacking, sabotaging the Strait of Hormuz, and striking global energy lines. Indeed, the situation is fragile and unstable, and it now calls for global attention. Oil prices are also reacting. Discussions at the G7 summit held in Canada included demands to hold Israel accountable for its actions, while Arab leaders issued strong calls to avoid wider war. But why is Trump's voice part of this? He confirmed twice that he always knew the date of the strike. And while the US builds missile shields to protect Israel, Trump's advisors say they even shared exquisite intelligence that only policy-level ties could unlock. What's striking here is not just the scale of these attacks, but how far they command global attention. There are also invisible lines connecting past decisions, secret meetings, and public threats. And now, the red-hot question as we move into the cold night of the Middle East. Is it really Israel and Iran at war? Or is this the opening power play of a larger alliance led from somewhere else? To understand why both Iran and Israel are moving so fast now, we have to rewind 5 years to January 3rd, 2020. That's when a United States drone struck down one of Iran's most powerful commanders, Qasem Soleimani, head of Iran's Quds Force near Baghdad International Airport. This wasn't just any strike, as Soleimani was a major architect of Iran's regional strategy and a figure both revered and feared. Under Soleimani's command, Shiite militias across Iraq and Syria, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and even Houthi forces in Yemen witnessed some level of success in their campaigns. Soleimani was credited with shaping the aftermath of the 2011 Syrian war and helping Assad cling to power. His death triggered a seismic shift as Iraq's parliament passed a resolution to evict U.S. troops from the region. That one strike shattered decades of geopolitical alignment. Sunni Arab governments who were nervous about Iran's growing influence suddenly had more room to act. From a United States standpoint, the move redefined Trump's foreign policy. His maximum pressure campaign, which included sanctions on oil, shipping, and finance, was followed by what analysts called an unprecedented focus on systemic regime change. The leadership in Tehran oscillated between outrage and restraint, but the message was clear: Iran had already been exposed. For Israel, this wasn't just background noise, it was a signal. If the Americans would remove Iran's key commander, perhaps they'd also cover Israel's push to dismantle Iran's nuclear program, cripple missile sites, and degrade its military command. Fast forward to today's airstrikes, they wouldn't be happening without the green lights that were given back in 2020. Israel has effectively carried the torch, and it now seeks to break Iran's nuclear grip outright. And Trump, he's saying he always knew the date, and that he repeatedly gave Iran chance after chance. In the last 5 years since the assassination of Soleimani, subtle military moves have been amplified. Israeli jets reportedly bombed Syrian weapons depots, even as a cyber wave of sabotage continued to hit Iranian nuclear labs, apparently tied to Mossad and United States agencies. Iranian air defense across central Iran have been crippled as recently as June 2025, thanks to covert drone flights out of Israel. Since 2010, a hidden battleground has been waged between Israel and Iran, far from the battlefield into the quiet spaces of labs and secret facilities.
It's believed the U.S. and Israel ordered a cyber attack to slow down Iran's nuclear program. A computer worm called Stuxnet reportedly traveled on USB thumb drives.
It began with the computer virus discovered in 2010, Stuxnet, which was widely leaked to be just a joint U.S.-Israel effort aimed at crippling Iran's centrifuges at Natanz at the time. That was a turning point, as it would be the first time cyber weapons were used to physically sabotage nuclear infrastructure, and it proved effective. Soon afterwards, real bombs and bullets followed. Between 2010 and 2012, at least 5 Iranian nuclear scientists were killed in Tehran, some by motorbike bombs, others by magnetic devices stuck to cars. One of those attacked in 2010 was physicist Mossad Ali Mohammed, who was killed outside his home in northern Tehran. Another, Mohammad Ahmadi Rosan, died in a 2012 car bomb. These weren't random killings, they seemed calculated and surgical strikes designed to decapitate Iran's nuclear expertise without triggering an open war. Then came the killing of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh in 2020, which marked a landmark moment. This was Iran's top nuclear scientist, yet a remote-controlled satellite-operated gun mounted on a pickup blew him apart on a Tehran road. It was a signal that Iran's nuclear architects were not safe, even at home. Each of these assassinations chipped away at Iran's sense of security and slowed its nuclear program. But it also marked a shift in Israel's confidence, no longer just behind the scenes. Israel felt empowered to shift the balance, especially after the United States withdrawal from the JCPOA back in 2018. The Trump administration's pullout from the nuclear deal removed a key diplomatic shield that once kept covert actions in check. With America stepping back, Israel gained freer rein. Intelligence sharing deepened, and Mossad matched its military raids with little to no fear of U.S. interference. In the early days of June 2025, that hidden war stepped into the open. Operation Rising Lion was months in the making, as Mossad operatives inside Iran set up several weapon caches, planted drones, and disabled Iran's air defense systems. Then, in the early hours of June 13th, Israel launched over 200 fighter jets in 5 waves, dropping more than 330 munitions on around 100 sites, paired with drone waves supported by Israeli commandos. The result? A destruction of missile bases, nuclear labs, military housing, and at least 9 senior scientists, all targeted and destroyed, according to Israeli intelligence. This was indeed the result of years of stealthy tactics.
The Iran deal is defective at its core. If we do nothing, we know exactly what will happen.
If covert attacks brought Israel's war into the open, policy decisions were responsible for opening the door. Back in 2018, President Donald Trump withdrew the United States from the Iran nuclear deal known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA. The pact had placed strict limits on Iran's uranium enrichment and opened its economy to some level of relief. But Trump stepped in and called it one-sided, reinstating tougher sanctions on Iran's oil, shipping, and financial sector.
Therefore, I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal.
The effect of this decision was severe, as in 2018 alone, Iran's GDP declined by an estimated 4.8%, leading to a new level of inflation and unemployment. The Shah's old wealth deficit crept back as everyday Iranians felt the pinch of these new measures. But the regime, most especially its hardline factions and Revolutionary Guard, used the imposed U.S. pressure to tighten its hold. Many diplomats in Tehran argued that the use of sanctions was proof that the West couldn't be trusted in its dealings. That made Iran double down on its domestic politics, consolidate power, and blame moderate politicians and the West for its pain. The foreign ministry's plea for thawing relations was drowned by chants for resistance. And as conventional diplomacy collapsed, so too did the deterrent effect of the deal. By the time Fakhrizadeh was shot down at the end of 2020, Iran was already sitting on edge. Though its proxies such as Hezbollah, Houthis, and Iraqi militias found new backing. While all this was going on, Israel watched nervously from the sidelines, believing it had no choice but to take action. Now, fast forward to 2025 with both sides seeing an open war as a last resort. Missile strikes and diplomatic collapse have been combined to produce a full-blown military confrontation. Operation Rising Lion did not just emerge out of nowhere, but from the rubble of trust and the expansion of hardline politics.
Qasem Soleimani had been the #1 foe of the US in the Middle East for many years. There is no question that he was the most important person for Iran.
Back on the streets of Tehran, large banners are still hanging with General Qasem Soleimani's face, not just as a military general, but as a martyr. The word Shahid is stamped above his image in bold red, symbolizing blood and sacrifice. For many in Iran, his death on January 3, 2020 was not just an assassination, but a wound that might likely never heal. That single drone strike outside Baghdad airport didn't just change military strategy, it reshaped Iran's cultural memory and hardened a country already used to grief. Over the years, it has quietly sown a revenge plot that is now blossoming into the biggest confrontation it has faced in decades. In the months following Soleimani's killing, millions of Iranians filled the streets. The grief was real, and so was the rage. In January 2020, Iranian lawmaker Ahmad Hamza announced a $3 million bounty on Donald Trump's head during a live parliamentary session. Around that same time, a eulogist speaking during Soleimani's funeral on national TV suggested raising $80 million by collecting $1 from each Iranian citizen to fund Trump's assassination. At the time, many dismissed it as just talk, but that anger never disappeared. In fact, it traveled. In July 2024, during his campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, Trump was shot in the ear by a sniper. He survived as the bullet only grazed past his ear, but the shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks, was killed by Secret Service agents. Though Crooks' motives remain unclear, the incident brought back old fears. Was this Iran's long-awaited payback? Only 2 months later, in September 2024, another attempt happened, this time at Trump's golf club in West Palm Beach, Florida. The suspect, Ryan Routh, was caught with several phones and encrypted foreign messaging apps. Federal investigators said the setup looked far more professional than expected for a lone actor. But the most chilling incident came later, which shocked intelligence circles deeply. In late 2024, United States federal agents uncovered a plot involving Farhad Shakiri, an Afghan national with ties to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. His mission was clear: assassinate Trump within 7 days or wait until after the 2024 election to try again. Indeed, Shakiri wasn't acting alone, as investigators traced his network to 2 other men in New York, who were reportedly helping him with surveillance. Shakiri eventually escaped, possibly to Iran. His 2 accomplices were both arrested in November 2024, and the FBI has since confirmed that the plot had all the signs of a state-sponsored operation. These were not random attacks. They were signs that Soleimani's death was not forgiven, not forgotten, and certainly not buried. However, for Iran, revenge isn't a single event, but a process, one that can wait years and cross borders. Iran state TV continues to call Trump a criminal, and inside Israel, the fear of Iranian retaliation, either directly or through proxy, remains at an extremely high level. Regardless of who holds the presidency in the United States, the shadow of its past decisions extends far into the future. The question now is, how far will Iran go in its war with Israel? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.